Hello everyone and welcome to the grand final of the Chessable Masters Division 1 winners section and it's not even the grand final, it's actually the grand final reset. What I mean by this is that Fabiano Caruana won the original final. Then Hikaru Nakamura defeated Magnus Carlsen in the losers bracket to come back into the winners bracket, and he defeated Fabiano Caruana in the grand final. And now as Fabi won the original final, Hikaru won the grand final. Now they go into the grand final reset, where they will play more rapid games, and if after two rapid games the match is still undecided, then they will play one final Armageddon game. And this is that game that I'm going to show you. This is basically the 7th game of their match, if you're counting the grand final and the grand final reset, and it's absolutely spectacular. Most of the games have been very, very enjoyable. If you have the time, I do suggest watching the entire event, the footage of the live event, I mean, it's just completely action-packed, and it's just they're playing amazing chess. And I really thought about which game to show. I decided for the Armageddon one because it's so many great secrets were overlooked due to time trouble, but that's where you guys will come in. So basically, to give you a quick overview, in the grand final, Hikaru started by winning with black, then Fabiano retaliated with black, then Hikaru won the 3rd game with black, and then in the 4th game, Fabi was unable to retaliate. Hikaru won the 4th game with the white pieces, thus winning the grand final. Then they went into the grand final reset. Hikaru again took the lead by winning the 1st game with black, then Fabiano retaliated by winning the 2nd game with black, and this is now the Armageddon. Hikaru got to the black pieces. Of course, here, you know, there's a bidding war before deciding who gets black in the Armageddon, and Hikaru, to everyone's expectation, won the draw. He bid 9 minutes and 6 seconds, and Fabiano bid 9 minutes and 58 seconds. Of course, everyone kind of knows that Hikaru can go lower than Fabi because he is pretty much the fastest player in the world. Okay, maybe it's here and there with Magnus, but other than Magnus, I don't think anyone can bid lower than Hikaru. And that means that now Hikaru has 9 minutes and 6 seconds, and Fabiano will have the full 15 minutes on the clock. So that being said, sort of a quick overview, let's check out this spectacular game. Fabi opens with c4. He goes for the English opening. We have knight to f6, knight to c3, and e5. Now remember, Hikaru only needs a draw to win the entire event. And now, no 4 knights of the English like we've been used to seeing in this tournament. We have the Bremen system with pawn to g3. We have c6, and now pawn to d4, sort of a reverse Sicilian. We have e captures on d4, queen captures on d4, and now pawn to d5. Nothing new here. This is the Keres variation, bishop g2, and d captures on c4, offering queen trade, but of course Fabi needs a win, so he keeps the queens on the board. Queen captures on c4, and bishop to e6. We have queen to a4, and now bishop to c5. Hikaru just continues developing pieces. Knight f3, h6, and both players castle. So castles. We have knight b to d. First queen back to c2, knight b to d7, and now pawn to b3. Now preparing to get to the dark square bishop as well. Really slow playing this, as one should when needing a win. And now rook to e8. There is a game where queen to e7 was played, but here Hikaru plays rook to e8, and it is now as of move 12 that we have a completely new game, and this is where our game basically begins. We have bishop to b2 by Fabi, queen to e7, and now rook 8 to d1. Just getting the rooks on the open file. Rook 8 to d1. We have pawn to e3, and now bishop to g4. Just pinning that knight to be annoying, saying that, okay, if you want to kick it away, you have to play something like h3 and g4. Other than that, I mean, I'm perfectly fine with my bishop being on g4 for the entire game. So here, rook to d2. Fabi prepares to double up on the d file. It was basically the first think moment of the game. Up until this point, both players were just blitzing out moves. So Fabi decides on this plan. He wants to double up on the d file, and Hikaru is very happy with this. He wants to trade rooks along the d file. So knight f8, rook captures. We have rook captures, and now pawn to h3. Maybe not the move you want to play, but you have to create imbalances in the position if you are to look for the win. So here, bishop back to c8 by Hikaru, and now just a nice knight to e2. We have bishop to a3 now, offering a trade of bishops, and of course Fabi declines. Bishop to d4. We have c5 by Hikaru, being very annoying to Fabi's bishop, and here everyone was expecting bishop back to a1, which is Fabi played bishop to b2, and he really helped Hikaru there, because here Hikaru's bishop isn't doing all that great. It's an a3, it can't really go back, it's not doing all that much. much, and Fabi should keep the bishops in the game. Point is that now, let's say queen to e4, you offer a queen trade, there are funny moves like knight f to d4. Now you attack black's queen, and if you trade, just knight captures on c2. Now attacks that weird bishop, and if rook to d2, going after the knight, okay, you can just trade captures, and after, let's say, bishop captures on f6, g captures on f6. And this is what you would get. Sort of an equal position, but Hikaru's pawn structure in front of the king is messed up, and you can look for chances there. But Fabi decided to bring the bishop to b2, and now Hikaru just trades it. Bishop captures on b2, queen captures, which was the original plan, and plays b6, and now Hikaru is just incredibly solid. Instead of that weird dark square bishop, now he has a beautiful light square bishop. The pawns are on dark squares. The bishop will come to b7, counter the light square bishop on g2. He can be very, very happy here. So pawn to a3, Fabi preparing b4, bishop to b7, and pawn to b4. Always an excellent move. We have knight to e6. Hikaru gets the knight back into the game, and now rook to c1. We have knight to e4, and now knight to f4. We have knight 6 to g5, and now we have knight to h4 by Fabi. Here in the during the live commentary, Robert has said that this is such a hard position to push for the win, but you should definitely consider something like knight to h5 to threaten mate in 1, because Hikaru already blundered the mate in 1 in this tournament, so he might do it again. It's not a bad try, and knight h5 is in fact the strongest move recommended by the engine. But okay, Fabi went for knight to h4. I always remember Josh Waitzkin when I see a move like this, because he constantly repeated this. It's something that his teacher Bruce Pandolfini taught him. Always be mindful of the square left behind, and here by leaving the f3 square, you've left the d2 square unattended. So now Hikaru has this rook to d2 move, which looks very scary. It attacks the queen, it goes after the f2 pawn. The problem is, while it is definitely a move that Hikaru wants to play, there's knight f5, and it's just very annoying. The black queen is now attacked, mate is being threatened, and you would have nothing better than to trade here. Captures with checking f8, knight f5, and you have this position where there's nothing wrong with it. For black is even very happy playing this. It's just that it's very, chance for both sides, so Hikaru doesn't want that. He plays g6 instead. Now he no longer allows the knight to come to f5, and rook to d2 is a big threat. And of course, now Fabi just plays rook to c2. King to h2 was a safer move, but he plays rook to c2 and sort of completely blunders the game. It was not spotted during the game. However, you guys will solve it. Of course, feel free to pause the video and win the game for Hikaru while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on finding this beautiful pawn grab. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it is knight captures on g3. That's the move, so congratulations to everyone who found it. You are a true pawn grabber at heart, and the reason is you cannot recapture this. You can't play f captures on g3, you can't trade and then f captures on g3. None of it works, and now you've just grabbed a pawn. I'm going to quickly show you what happens if, for example, f captures on g3. There's queen captures on e3 with check, and now after king to h1, look at this, rook to d1. How do you stop checkmate? Queen to g1. You have to play rook to f2. Now block the queen, but now bishop captures on g2, knight captures on g2, and now the spectacular queen to e6, threatening mate, g4, and now queen to d6 with check. You have to interpose with the knight. Now comes knight to e4, and there are no more moves here. You're going to capture on f2, and then you're going to deliver a check, and that's it. And the rook cannot move. Of course, if you move the rook away from the second rank, then rook to d2 right away, and there really are no moves here that white can play. So that's the problem after knight captures on g3 with actually capturing the knight. If you play bishop captures on b7, just queen captures on b7. And now the idea is the same. Also, queen to h1 is being threatened, so you have to play king to h2. And now knight to f1 with check. Now king to g1 only move, and now rook to d1, threatening all sorts of nasty discoveries. And now if rook to c1, now you have knight to g3 with check. Now you can't take the rook because of queen to h1 checkmate, so you have to again run with the king. Now comes queen to h1 with check. You run the king up the board, knight to e4 with check, king to g4 and h5 with check, and that's pretty much it. The white king has no squares. You're gonna have to play something like knight captures on h5, but then g captures with check. Then you pick up the rook, and then you're just up a full rook. So that means that if you can't capture and you can't capture on b7, the only thing you have left is to ignore this knight. But what else is there to play? Rook to d2. It's a move, but you just trade. Let's say rook captures, queen captures, now bishop captures, and g2 king captures, and knight goes back to e4. You're up a pawn. You have spectacular knights. The white's king side is ruined. This will be a slow win, but Hikaru would win this. So that was in the position. But Hikaru missed it. He played rook to d7. It's sort of this Armageddon mindset where if you have the black pieces, you know you're so focused on not losing that you sometimes will miss winning ideas. So Fabi now of course spots it. He plays king to h2, stops knight g3, and now king to h7. We have rook to e2 now. By Fabi. B counters on c5 was maybe the way to go, because now after rook to e2, Hikaru just pushes c4, and now he already creates a sort of a second weakness, the passed c pawn. And okay, queen to c2. Fabi has a very clear idea of why he did this. He had to clear the c2 square for the queen, and now he will have incredible pressure on that g6 pawn with both of the knights with the queen, and the once f3 lands, then of course you know that knight captures on g6 is coming. So okay, b5, Hikaru also has to defend his passed pawn. Pawn to f3 now, and knight to d6. And here an incredible moment arrives where, of course, you know that Fabi will give up the knight on g6. The question is, which knight? And knight to h captures on g6 is the way to go. And this is what I thought was a bit natural, because maybe later on you can push h4 and so on. But it's the correct move for a completely different reason, and I will show it to you. Point is that after knight captures, f captures, and queen captures on g6, king to h8, you will play queen captures on h6, and after king to g8, now remember, Hikaru is satisfied with a draw, so he doesn't mind the repetition, e4, and now after queen g7, you will trade queens. That's the point. Captures, captures, and now h4. That's why it's important to capture with the h knight, so you have this h4 move in, and now everything for white comes with tempo. Knight to h7, bishop h3 all of a sudden attacks the rook. Rook e7, e5 is coming. Knight to e8, and now knight to e6 check with f4, f5 coming. And yes, white is down a piece, but white is the one pushing for a win here, and there are good chances white will win this position. However, Fabi played knight f captures on g6 because, of course, he has doesn't have all the time in the world, and you have to make a decision. Now the problem is f captures, queen captures with check, king to h8, queen captures on h6, king to g8, and now the problem is you don't have this same plan of trading queens and then just playing h4, because there's a knight on h4. So here we have e4, Hikaru does play queen to g7, and now like I said, you can't trade here, like captures, captures, and now you don't have h4, you don't have bishop to h3, and everything is not as it should be. So here Fabi kept the queens in the game, queen to h5 was played, and now Hikaru plays rook to e7 to stop pawn to e5, but now Hikaru is the one that blunders the game, and I mean, incredible as it is, feel free to pause the video and win the game for Fabi while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on spotting that I was only tricking you. Rook to e7 does not stop e5, and that's exactly the move you should have found. And the move, of course, is pawn to e5. The problem now is there's no good move. If you do nothing, then f4, f5, f6 is coming, and if you actually trade here, which you can, you're defending the e5 square twice. Rook captures, queen captures. Now look at this: f4 attacks the knight, attacks the queen, attacks the bishop. How do you play this? There's no way out of this. The best way is actually knight to f3 check, sort of trying to win the white queen, but now comes queen captures on f3. And okay, you don't mind giving up the queen because the black queen also hangs. F captures, bishop captures, king captures, and now let's say knight to f7 attacks the pawn, just e6. Now you're up 2 pawns, you are completely winning, and that's what Fabi should have played. But he played rook to d2. So Hikaru threw it once, Fabi threw it once. Now again, it's anyone's game. Knight g to f7. Hikaru now guards the e5 square sufficiently, and also the knights are now defending each other. queen to c5, and now we have queen to f6, guarding the knight here. Rook to d4 by Fabi. It's a weird move. I have no idea what it does. Probably the idea is at some point e5 you give up the pawn, and then rook joins the attack. Then maybe you can play something like f4. The bishop comes into the game. So probably something like that. But after rook to d4, Hikaru just played pawn to a6, which is interesting as the position also called for a rook to c7. It's a move. If queen captures, then queen captures on d4, and then you just escort the passed c pawn down the board. But the real question is what happens if queen captures on a7, just keeping an eye on the rook here. Now the idea is c3 again. White isn't in time to defend the pawn. Rook d1, c2, rook to c1, queen to b2, and now you will struggle immensely to keep the position alive, but of course you will fail. Knight c4 attacks the queen, let's say queen f4, knight c to e5, and once knight to d3 lands, that's it. Even if you defend it, just knight to d3, you don't care, because if queen captures, queen captures on c1, you're up material, you are completely winning. But Hikaru missed it. He played a6. Again, it's the problem of the Armageddon mindset. You are not looking for a way to win with black. You're just looking for ways not to lose. And here, rook back to d1 by Fabi. We have rook to e8, and now rook to e1. Now Fabi is again ready to push the e pawn, but Hikaru starts pushing the c pawn. We have queen to e3. Now again, preparing to push and also keeping an eye on that c1 square. And now we have knight to c4. Kicks the white queen back. We have queen to a7, goes after the bishop. And now again, if Hikaru was looking for ways to win and keeping this position alive, he would just move the bishop and continue focusing on the c pawn, but he went for queen to b6. He said, let's trade queens. Once we trade queens, there's no way you're winning this game. So queen captures on b6, we have knight captures on b6, and now knight to f5. Now Fabi will try to create some threats against the black king and get those pawns pushing up the board. Knight to e5 by Hikaru. f4, we have knight to d3, attacks the rook. Rook to e2, and now knight to c4. And now Hikaru's knights are deadly here. Knight to d4, now comes rook to d8. Attacks the knight, knight c2, and now knight to c1. Attacks the rook, rook to e1, and now even rook to d2. This is a spectacular move by Hikaru. He doesn't care about his knight hanging on c1. He just plays rook to d2 and puts pressure on the c2 knight, saying, okay, I want you to capture here, and there really is nothing better. So Fabi captured, and now look at this. Bishop captures on e4. By sacrificing the piece on c1, Hikaru removed the defender of the pawn, and now bishop captures on e4 becomes possible. And you can't really defend. If you move the rook, then the knight hangs. So he tried knight to e1 to defend the bishop on g2, but now just knight to e3, a triple attack on the bishop on g2. And unfortunately it cannot move. So king to g1, now Hikaru starts collecting with interest. Knight captures on g2, king f1, knight to e3 check, king to g1, and here Hikaru played c2, and it was in this position on move 56 that Fabiano Caruana resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. So truly an incredible match, just going back and forth. First Hikaru wins, then Fabi equalizes. Hikaru wins, Fabi equalizes, then the grand final goes to Hikaru, then they go into the grand final reset. Again, Hikaru wins, Fabi wins, and now this is truly a worthy Armageddon game. I mean, like I said, if you guys have the chance, do watch the entire live broadcast. It was truly an amazing show. So here, of course, you resign. There's no defense against rook d1. Whatever you play, like g4, just rook d1, and you resign. You either pick up the rook or, well, you pick up the rook. That's pretty much it. There's no other way to put it. Very nicely done by Hikaru. Bounced back after his incredible match against Magnus Carlsen, went to the finals against Fabi, and took the whole thing. So big congratulations to Hikaru on this incredible victory. That's the game and a little bit of info about the match. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I would like to thank Phil Kessler, Tax Guru, Joshua Hadley, Christian Hubner, www.walkthrough.co, and James Cashman for a contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check two of my previous videos here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing the coverage of everything that's happening in the chess world, but most likely the next video will be first game of the World Chess Championship match between Ding Liren and Jan Nepomniachtchi. So stay tuned for that. See you soon.